Hello YouTube, today we're going to review the Batman by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo Omnibus Volume 1. Now, I'm going to be fully transparent and say that this is a Batman run I have a lot of nostalgia for, because it was my first one, really, at least of the major, in-universe comics. I had read Batman before. I think I read Dark Knight. No, it wasn't Dark Knight. It was actually the Spawn Batman crossover. I found that at a dollar store, and that was my first Batman comic of all comics. But I was really into the Arkham games by late 2013, and I wanted to read Batman comics, so when I had heard that not even 2 years prior, DC had started a new 52, where all their stories were starting with new issue 1s, I thought, okay, well, I'll jump in. And at the time, I didn't realize Detective Comics and Batman were two different series, but I went with Batman, and I got lucky because I'd argue even now this is the best modern Batman run, although it has some issues, mostly in the second half, but yeah. So in a nutshell, you get Batman issues 0 to 33 of the New 52 series, issues 23.2, which is a Riddler origin issue, or rather a Riddler short story. And you get a Batman Annuals 1 and 2. So, yeah. But this is mostly the first 3 story arcs of the series. They are, in order, Court of Owls, Death of the Family, and lastly, 0 Year, which is the longest, and is 0 Year is probably why this book is so chunky. As you can see, it's a big book, and that is one thing I will criticize about this book. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but this book doesn't stay open for the first, I want to say 300 or so pages. It's not going to stay open on its own. With all that introduction stuff out of the way, let's begin. Court of Owls begins with Batman issue 1 from 2011. It more or less, the best way I can describe this story, I won't do any full spoilers of the dialogue, but you will probably see spoilers of art, so be warned there. The premise is more or less Bruce Wayne feels comfortable as Batman. He feels like he's confident. He's very confident that Batman is making progress and that there's nothing about Gotham that he doesn't already know. And so he announces an initiative as Bruce Wayne to, well, clean up the city, give it bigger, better neighborhoods and all that. So rich people stuff, basically. But then something happens. A mysterious murder happens, and all of the paraphernalia from the crime scene is, well, owl related, to which we're revealed that there was an old urban legend / nursery rhyme in Gotham called Beware the Court of Owls. And Batman / Bruce doesn't believe it, even after this quote supposed message from an owl-based villain claims that Bruce Wayne will die tomorrow. So, what exactly does all this mean? Well, again, without spoilers, it basically means the Court of Owls has targeted Batman. But Batman refuses to believe. He's convinced it's just yet another, he's just convinced that it's another, like, insane villain. Just like some person with an obsession for owls. He refuses to believe that there's some secret society in Gotham that he doesn't know of. Everyone else, including Alfred and Dick Grayson, tell him, you know, Bruce, maybe there is a court of owls. But he refuses to believe, and this is as far as I'll go with the plot synopsis, but needless to say, Batman gets a rude awakening in that he gets captured by them and almost dies in the process. And I won't spoil the rest, because that's what happens. That's a very summarized version, the first 6 issues. But what I like about this story, I'll admit, when I first read this in paperback years and years ago, I didn't get the hype. I'm going to be honest. I thought, that's like... It's like, cool. I like that there's a new villain, but I don't think they're really that cool either. Like, I don't... But then I think more about it. What makes this story so special is not the Court of Owls themselves. There is stuff there. There's interesting lore and world building with the Court of Owls, but to me what makes it a great story is that it's... Batman is really the root of his own problems. He's not just, fighting a villain and winning every time. Because I feel like a lot of writers, they try to make Batman this character who's like always prepared. It's kind of like that stupid thing like Death Battle fans or whatever will say, where it's like Batman with prep time would win this fight. And I'm like, well, no, because Batman's whole weakness is that he's cynical and that he's nihilistic. He sees the worst in everything, and he can't take anything at face value. He always overanalyzes the problem to the point where in this story, it really screws things up. And really, that's why I think Court of Owls is a great first new era Batman arc, because it plays off of what you might already know about the character, but it tells a fresh story that really gets you familiar with the fact that Batman is not this infallible, always right detective that, some of the movies or TV shows might portray him as. So, yeah, I think Court of Owls is excellent. It took a while for me to get the appeal, but now that I'm older, I certainly do. Next, we get Batman issue 12, called Ghost in the Machine. This is kind of a filler issue. Here, we're introduced to these 2 young people. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot their names, but I do like their characters. They're these 2 young people, kind of bluish hair, and basically the boy, he gets beat up a lot and always gets into situations he shouldn't be in. But the girl, she's obsessed with Batman because Batman saved her and her brother. And she's obsessed with helping Batman. And you'll see this character pop up a few more times throughout this book. Then we get Batman Annual 1. This is the intro of Mr. Freeze in the New 52 universe, and let's just say his backstory is a little bit different from the animated series version that you're all familiar with. Certainly nothing like the Arnold Schwarzenegger version of the character, but bad movies aside. So Court of Owls was a story as I said, I wasn't a huge fan of when I first read, but it did grow on me. Death of the Family, however, I loved this from the beginning. Now, I always love a good Joker story. Joker may be overused in the movies and TV, but he is surprisingly sparing in the comics. When Joker comes back, it's a big deal when Joker comes back in the comics. And here, I could not imagine when this came out, because this was right before I subscribed to the comic when I was younger, so I missed all of this. But holy hell, I wish I didn't, because this is a great story. Without spoilers, Joker is back, but something is off about him. He's not just the clown prince of crime anymore. He's gone full serial killer. Creepy serial killer. In fact, his first crime is stealing his face back, as he's cut off his face in the last time Batman fought with him somehow. And he's taken his face back, and now he's just wearing his skin as a mask. It's not even attached to his body. He's just literally stitched it on like it's a mask. Ugh, it's so gross. But Greg Capullo does fantastic art, which I want to say throughout this whole book, the art is amazing. Greg Capullo is not the only artist in this book. He's the main one, however, and oh my god, that Joker is so damn scary. It is like... I thought the Dark Knight movie was kind of a scary Joker when it came out, but this is just like a whole new level. I wish they did a movie with this Joker, because it would be probably the scariest. It would be scarier than 90% of horror movies. I guarantee it. But yeah, basically the Joker is targeting Batman, and I really won't spoil his plot at all. In fact, I'm not even going to show you. I'm going to skip it because I do not want to spoil a damn thing. You just have to read it. All I'll say is Batman is not the only one in trouble. Let's just say it's called Death of the Family for a reason. The whole Bat family is in danger. And it's just phenomenal. One of the best Joker stories. The only thing I'll mention is on the last 2 pages, but it's probably one of my favorite Joker moments ever, because it just says so much about this version of the Joker. It's at the very end, after all is said and done, and everyone's been scared shitless by the Joker, and the Joker's gone missing again. There's one mystery left, which is, what was the chemical name? What was the main source material of a chemical the Joker used throughout this story? And it's honium, HA, on the periodic table. Even in the very end, the Joker gets the last laugh. Issue 18 is a fill-in, but it features great art by Andy Kubert, who is one of my favorite comic artists for DC and Batman stories. Features the return of that blue-haired girl from earlier. Again, I really wish I could remember her name. I'm so sorry I don't, because I actually do like her character. And then we get issues 19 and 20. These are kind of fill-in. They're not... These are a little odd. They are by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, but it's not a big arc. It's just 2 issues, but it features Clayface, and it's a pretty simple story where Clayface and kind of frames Bruce Wayne, but of course that doesn't go as planned for Clayface. It's kind of interesting because they do make it where Clayface loses all of his humanity. There is no person other than Clayface now. But yeah, pretty good story. Then we get this short story with Superman called Ghost Lights. So throughout this story, they kind of imply that something bad has happened to Batman. Now, I'm going to be honest, I didn't read any other Batman comics, and I had no clue what actually happened until I read Batman Annual 2, which is a story. It's another fill-in, but it's not as good as Annual 1, but it's still okay. Basically, Batman is getting put in Arkham Asylum for a reason I can't possibly answer, because I'm not that well-versed in the DC lore. But basically, it's a way for Batman to get out his feelings over the fact that his son, Damian Wayne, is dead. Because I guess at some point Damian Wayne died. Obviously, he's probably back by now because comics, but yeah, it's still, I'm glad they included that anyways. Even if it is admittedly a story that's just okay and kind of irrelevant to the rest of the book, I'm glad they included it for completion purposes. So now we get to my favorite part of this whole book, 0 Year. Holy hell, I love this story. Holy hell, Batman. This is a great story. So it's basically a new origin for Batman. I won't spoil it as with these other stories, but let's just say, to me personally, I love the 40s Batman comics. I know a lot of people don't like them because they don't reflect the character now. They've got stuff like Batman killing people and Batman using guns, and also just the fact that Bob Kane's art was not too good on top of tracing a lot, but I don't care. I love the aesthetic and style of 40s Batman a ton, But so this is kind of a modernization of that. And by modernize, I don't mean it's the same thing, they just add phones or whatever. I mean it's modernized in a sense that the way it's told fits modern storytelling sensibilities. It feels like a modern comic story, but they get the tone of 40s Batman while also doing their own thing. It's a lot like the newest Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, directed by Matt Reeves. It's kind of this intense noir story with all kinds of twists and turns, and even when you think it's about over, something huge happens. And it has 3 villains. You get the Red Hood, which I won't spoil, but that is directly implied to be the origin of a villain who comes back later as a very much huge villain. You get Dr. Death, which is, believe it or not, the first reoccurring Batman villain ever from the 40s. He gets modernized and turned into this really scary monster that, like, his bones grow, basically. It's really creepy. So this is issue 27. This was actually the first issue I ever got when I subscribed. I was lost as hell because it was literally in the middle of the 0 Year story. I didn't care though. It was a good comic and I was absolutely blown away by how good it was. Like, oh, what was I missing all these years? These Batman comics are great. And then, well, and also I want to say this story has a lot of homages to later Batman. It's not just an homage to 40s Batman. See, here's an homage to Dark Knight Returns, issue 1's cover. But by far my favorite aspect of 0 Year from an art standpoint is actually not just Greg Capullo and Danny Meekie's like pencils and inks that they did it respectively. It's the colors. I don't know how to pronounce the name of the person who did the colors. It's like FC Fo. I'm so sorry. I don't know. I'm dumb. I don't know how to pronounce things. I'm not even going to try. But the colors in this story are super surreal. It kind of reminds me of the coloring of the Killing Joke, like the 80s version of Killing Joke by John Higgins before it got recolored in the 2000s. It's very surreal, but it has such a layer to this story's emotions and tones. And I forgot to mention, the last villain of this is the Riddler. If you really want to see how the new Batman movie got their ideas for the Riddler, read 0 Year, and you'll get it. It's not exact, but you'll definitely see similarities. So at the back here, we have that Riddler story from Batman 23.2. We have issue 28, which was a fill-in issue advertising Batman Eternal. And then in the back, we get all kinds of variant covers. I won't go over all of them, but yeah, they're some really cool ones. But before I forget, the last thing I was going to say is, look at that! The purple gloves are back! Yes, I miss purple gloves Batman. So that is the Batman by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo Omnibus. I'm sorry if this video was just rambling, because quite frankly, I have not reviewed comics in a while, but I just really wanted to praise one of my favorite omnibus books out there. And yes, this particular volume has binding issues where you have to hold it open for the first and last 200 or so pages, but trust me when I say it's worth it. You can get this for as cheap as $65, $70 on Amazon or other comic sites. It's worth every penny. Great volume. All 3 stories are some of the best Batman comic out there, if you ask me. So that is that. Tune in next time, and I will be back with something. I don't know what, but I'll be back with another review soon. Bye, y'all.